How's it going out there, Funk fans? It's another edition. Politics and money. Well, we're gonna get into something with no money, meaning no papers. Yeah. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean I ain't got none? That mean I got money? That mean I don't have no claims? I got no rights? I got no benefits? Well, that's sort of half the truth. The other half is that in some way, shape, form, or fashion, there's money to be had somewhere. Is it apparent? Does it appear? Is it in my sleeves? No. Doesn't exist. It's what you like to call a proxy agreement. You know what a proxy agreement is? It's like a virtual thing that moves. It's not necessarily secret. It's not veiled, really. It's there, but in your own mental perception, there's this illusion, an allure of non-existence. But yet it still exists. So what's the elements of money when you got none? When you got no, you're clean, you're good, you're negotiating, right? Well, the answer to that question is quite simple. Say you go into court. They say, man, you're going to have to pay, and we don't care how you do it. Let's go get that money. So you look at the order, and you're like, you're looking through it. Now, in a civil court, usually they don't even use statutes, which is good, because the lack of a statute means that there's lack of financial jurisdiction. That means that statutes by proxy, that means something that's supposed to exist, that coexists in a legal sense, the legal idea of the sense of something that's there, but isn't there. One would ask themselves, if you're negotiating with these instruments, if you go back in that same court and you say, hey man, let me ask you a question, Your Honor. I'm appealing this because I have two things that I'm having a problem with. One, lack of statutorial financial authority. That means that the authoritarian that signed this order doesn't seem like there's any. I mean, there's an agreement here. Sure, I agree to pay. You're even saying you agree. Because you know that lack of a statute means only one thing that abates the entire situation. And that is, since you can't agree to something that has not been statutorily agreed upon, then it has to be sent back to the lower courts. Because the ramifications of the law means that they're asking you to do something in a sense of like a fundraiser, like a tax bill. I get taken to court for a tax bill. I need to know what taxes I'm going to have to pay because legally I'm required. But I need a statute to confirm that. Same thing comes with an order to court. The same attribute comes from cops stopping you. You know, hey man, you know, I don't want no problems, man. What do you want? Here's my license. But at the end of the day, you should be asking that one single and most important question. Are you a revenue officer? Because it breaks down to one simple scenario. Those codifications are based on fundraising rules, laws, and principles. All that of other ordinances, laws, subcontracts, subcontractors, anybody that wants business and wants your money, yeah. That's what they want. They want your money. So you got a money judgment. There's no monetary deposit, that is the statutorial design to abstract legal money out of your pocket. Then that means technically the order is just a contract in favor of another party, but the party is not asking for legal money essentially. Not that you're arguing what money is. Forget money, because I don't have any. See, I don't have any today. No papers, no appropriate or appropriational ideas. I have the contribution of being able to make a legal argument understanding of one principle. If I ask a cop if he's a revenue officer and he says no, and I go down to the Department of Revenue and I ask the Department of Revenue, hey, can you sign this? Let me know that these people don't work for you. And they say, sure. They sign it. Or I may have an affidavit. Or I may just drag him into court. I may have to drag him into court. Did I ask you on this day, at this time? I might have taken a photo. You know, was I there? Of course, you may not remember me by description, but you can remember me by voice. So let me roll the tape here. Here you go. So you give the judge the permission to roll the tape. The tape is rolling. Here you are in front of the Department of Revenue, and you're saying in so many words, do you know that if I was to use your testimony in court, that would be legally acquired? Do you understand that? And the guy says, yes, that's now admissible in court. Now you can use that as part of your argument. Because now, since it's admissible in court, your main claim is, since they don't work for you, and their codes are codified based on revenue percentage points, revenue attributes, and most importantly, its quota for its revenue obligations, because when it meets its revenue obligations, everybody gets paid. You got, what are the benefits of gaining revenue if you can't do anything with it? Well, the revenue and access to it would mean that, say, the city gets 25%. Cops' pension plans get 13, 14%. They get a pay raise. Your money going into their hands to do you wrong. Makes a lot of sense, right? Doesn't make any sense at all. Makes no sense. So now you ask yourself, you're saying, okay, how does this all work out for me? How can I occupy their minds but avoid dealing with them? Well, like I said, going down to the Department of Revenue to cut that type of financial obligation off the chain before it even happens is the way to act. If you're consistently reacting, you'll never have an act to implement, in which then your reactions become their suggestions to act in a certain way, a certain precise means of corresponding what they expect from you. So now they anticipate you're going to act a certain kind of way, and they know you're going to do this because they know that based on the revenue they gather from you, you make serious and notable exchanges, inciting the fact that you only react to things that you know nothing of. Or you react because you think, they got to renegotiate for me, man. I ain't getting nothing wrong. Shit. I'm the hardest, man. The truth is that I've been in and out of jail as youth. Oh boy, I don't know. I don't know how many times I've been in and out of jail. Caught guns, blasting dudes. I have one actual picture at approximately 7 years old. You're gonna see it at the end of this video. I was a monster, monstrosity. Yes, I was an animal. As you can see, beanie wave cap up the side. Where today? This resembles my past's history. As many times as I got caught, as many times as I negotiated, my fundamental chase to tell them they didn't know nothing was based on two principles. One, if I didn't agree to anything, why am I negotiating with you? Two, if I'm negotiating with you, what benefits do I get from it? And it always ended in, maybe you're right. Maybe we're wrong. We want to reform you instead of locking you up. The reason why is because you probably got a mind of your own. It sounds like it. Straight from the street, you come off the street corner, so nickel, dimes, and quarters, chopping guys down with big guns. You're a small kid. For some reason, you're pretty ambitious. So we're going to give you another chance. Not a slap on the wrist, not a paper trail. No. We're going to put you back into the wild. We think that you're a survivor. You're like me. You're important. You just don't know it yet. That apparently was the notion, and I think that was actually the message. And it wasn't because I was wrangling them ultimately. I think I had relatively good legal questions that always somehow gave them the intuition, this nature that gave them the intuition, this guy is something. We just don't know what yet. Let's just back away and watch him. They watched for a long time. A long time. Oh, yeah. Oh, they waited. They waited. Now I think of all the people, that I was incarcerated around, things that happened to me, getting stuck up with a knife, told to read a book, how going from lifting 450, I'm a puppy, and I could probably break your bones with one hand. I was an animal, complete animal. I was just like you. But I had no excuses for the things I did. I knew what I was doing. That's the thing that made it so comprehensive. Like, you know what you're doing. You know why you're doing it. But the circumstances surrounded who I was. Had nothing to do with what I was doing at all. It was like, we have to assess this guy. We have to look at him as a real investment instead of looking at him like this is just another oddball that doesn't understand anything that's going on and he wants to be taken for a ride. And we're going to throw him in the trunk and do something to him. Or you'll do some time and you'll get stretched out and things will happen to you. Up until my relatively early years, I'm, somewhere between 18, 19, couldn't stay out. Yeah, it wasn't like it was a rotating door. I just did things that seemed strangely knowledgeable. Like I had an idea of what I was being locked up for. Asked the cops questions, verified my status with whomever I would be signing documents with, all kinds of things. Things move up the food chain. Then like a big fish, you eventually become somewhat notable, which then I was offered several city jobs in 3 different cities, one being Chicago. This is where all these pictures resonated from. But out of my history came a real rare glimpse into what eventually becomes a man that wants something, knows something, and begins to understand the principle of using what illustrates true power that was around long before me. And I'm not talking, some Asiatic fruit cocktail country or some Egyptian paradigm of intellectual sustainability and or thus the northern hemisphere of the Eurocentric way of life. Whether it was eating someone, reading a Bible, or starting a war. Just had something completely different that kind of de-evolved all of those restless ideas that suggested that all of us were the same in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I simulated it all based on what I absolutely had to do. But I seemed to make sense out of all of it. Yeah. I wasn't special by any means. Believe me. It's worse than most of the people that were in jail, that were in prison, that were incarcerated. Given long sentences for, one kid got a gun possession. It was, he only been jailed once. He had, caught with 6 nickels. At probation, this kid got caught with a gun. Now he's my age, and I get caught with 3 guns and get off. This kid walks in there and gets baked. They get this kid about, it was 19 for the gun. And this is actually kind of when they began to understand that everything has a commercial component. They gave him, is it 6, 7, there's 8 bullets in the chamber he has left. 2 did he discharge. The rest of the clip, they don't know, but it were unaccounted for. And they gave him 5 years for each bullet. That's Cook County, by the way. 5 years for each bullet. And then you're pretty much sitting on somewhat of a 20-year sentence. And there's just this kid just standing there and you know, faints. They take him in the back. And I'm sitting in the row in the pews and waiting for them to call us. You know, this is before they had the batting cages between the juvenile component inside of the back of the lockup facility that brought you up front, through the batting cages, and then eventually into the court when they brought you in one at a time. But they had us in pews. You know, at my age, you know, it's the 80s. You know, I said my piece and walked out of there, happy, free man. This kid got 20 years. Went into shock. Was in a coma for almost, I think they said he was in a coma for almost close to a year. Almost a year. And when he came out, he didn't know anything. He was completely, I mean, just wiped away. This kid knows nothing. Yeah. He said he wasn't a bad kid. He wasn't. I was a sinister. I just did things, you know, caused harm. Back to the basics. I mean, you know, as far as all that is concerned, even in the sense of statutory components in criminal cases, the person you have to pay in case you're negotiating is that of which is either enforcing, soliciting, or benefiting from a code, statute, whatever they like to call it. The basis of that is a law platform that says we endorse and agree that these people, or those type of people, or these particular people should be incarcerated under these particular laws for these particular reasons. So they line them all up, knock them down like dominoes, and now it can go from the house of dominoes to the house of cards. So you got all these things that you've built the floor with, nice marble floor, you know, made out of dominoes. And the effects of your house of cards is that to reinforce it, you have to have ultimately an agreement set in stone with private companies, especially privatized industries looking to make a buck. All of them are looking to make money. So it doesn't matter where it comes from or who's selling it to them. The end of the day, your judgment, like any monetized debt, is based on income. It is based on someone getting a supply of income off of raising funds, soliciting funds, and let's just say it's the statutory effect of an agreement. I don't need it in my hand because it's not necessary. When you look at the paper, it doesn't resolve the issue. The paper isn't the problem. The words aren't the problem. Even the interpretation, neither the verbiage, is what you have in enactment that ensures that that does not happen, and that you've somewhat, what do you want to call it? You financially industrialize the complex that you're in. You don't have to be stingy. You don't have to take all the city's revenue to stop them. You don't need to stop and kind of pop at the infrastructure by saying, I'm going to take guns out of your surplus. I'm going to take, you don't have to take anything. You just have to make a ruling demographical class of people classified to be outside of the resume and the applications of law. Now, I'm not saying you're just like you're stepping completely out. What you're saying is if these laws apply, we're going to implement them so that we can benefit from them. If we want to employ a judge, we'll employ judges at the street level if we want to. We can go into a common law setting. Sure, you can. Yeah, you didn't know. You violate a crime. Okay. Friends create a tribunal. It's what the people that want to control you do. Their friends create a entity. They call it the legislator. The legislator starts signing bills, sends it down to an executive committee who then tells the municipalities to incorporate so that the city and the corporation of the legislative branch, let's say the municipal corporation and the state corporation, want to do business with one another. In order for that to happen, they have a lot of paperwork in place, which is fine. But the thing that really gets you is when you realize if you're, and they can't be associated with you in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So a friend of yours starts a tribunal. He has his own entity. 6 people come in, they get interviewed. Now you got all the right components to it. Another 6 people get interviewed. Then you go into the tribunal. Now what happens is a lot of paperwork, not a whole lot here. The fact that the tribunal is incorporated to be recognized by the state, you're ultimately saying that if this person is convicted or not convicted, the appropriations from that particular tribunal, meaning the street setting of an entity, set aside for 6 people and 1 person adjudicating, another prosecuting, are doing the same thing with the same proprieties of this entity and ball of financial wax, meaning all the paperwork that came from the abstract entity called the city, state, or municipality, or whatever you want to call them. And it's been incorporated, just like bylaws. It's now been incorporated into the entity to do one form of salvational financial manifestation of its own, which is to essentially take the ruling class, eliminate them, and become the competing force for the tribunal's manifestation. So you're talking that your entity is taking on the personification of what you oppose, you personally oppose. Now it could be neighborhood versus neighborhood. It could be set up in any kind of way that it is seen fit to be collectively processed as a guarantee by your local entity. The city doesn't have to co-sign for it because the city isn't in on the contract. The city is just simply acting on its own components to give its friends enfranchising contracts, lucrative to that, using statutes, ordinances, municipal laws, things of this nature to transfer benefits. This is the reason why a judgment, for instance, under a criminal or civil action, has to be appropriated by law. And the reason why it has to be appropriated by law is because if the law isn't in it, then it's basically just a contract, considering the way it's set up, a benefit to whatever entity is negotiating. But at the end of the day, if it wants the money to continue to operate, it has to have a statute in order to provide the services that you're asking for. You want Little Debbie, you want phone rights, you want all of these benefits that come with being a prisoner, but yet and still it has to be statutorily underwritten in order for those benefits to enhance the incorporated city, who solicits those benefits from the state. So once your tribunal is set up, or whether it's common law, but the point is with common law is that you got to come to a statutory decision. Common law provisions can be used, absolutely. There's no question about that. The problem with them intravenously being one and the same is that you have to enter into a contract in order to provide a service, because remember, you are incorporated. So you're doing the same thing large corporations are doing. Municipal, cities, counties, townships, you name it. We have the power. The power is by design. Now, depending on how you want to design yourself, your entity, and what you want to benefit from, there are no obstacles. There's only situations and circumstances. Look through some of these pictures I'm posting here, and these will tell you situation and circumstances. The first picture is me, 7 years old. Even I didn't believe it when I saw it. Didn't believe it. I was so handsome. Surprised I didn't die for that. But lucky me, and lucky you. It's Professor Phil, not this piece.
In the shop, it's kill or be killed, hustle or die. You got to take the pot, mama didn't lie. Look in my eyes and see the realness. The nine makes you feel this pain that I'm going through till I'm sitting on millions. My mind's on that paper, wishing upon a caper. I need a stack now, I repent for my sins later when I'm living greater. The mind state of a west side native that's sick in the head, touch your feds every day. See me load the AK, watch them run when it's spray. Get the fuck up on my way if I pray to this pistol play. Cause when I'm heated, I'm gunning till there's nothing in sight. So cancel Christmas, motherfucker, fuck you and your life.
Niggas in my mob is too suave. We ride 100 G cars and look like the world is ours. Don't disrespect or get your chest split like cigars. In this county of crooks trying to avoid jail bars. But it's so hard to make cheese, especially if you ain't got no PhD or connect on fat keys. See, mob stability is for niggas with nothing to lose. Going cycle from this drama, you go through paying dues. Like getting bucked in your side, trying to hustle for a ride. Or hitting the block to find out one of your guys just died. So don't come to the shop, that's just risking your health. Cause K-Town niggas are bomb on that ass like a stealth.
In the county of crooks, gangbangers, killers and slangers, where judges be quick to hang us, homies and strangers, no buck we bustin'. Come on, kamikaze, watch our bodies come up. When I run with this home, they gon' stop up. What's up? In the county of crooks, gangbangers, killers and slangers, where judges be quick to hang us, homies and strangers, no buck we bustin'. Come on, kamikaze, watch our bodies come up. When I run with this home, they gon' stop up.
Our county's so crooked, psychodrama invented a style of damn near everybody took it and passed it around. Now these motherfuckers all looking sick, cause we putting it down and ain't no sooner or later the world gon' realize they faking and snatch they tapes off the shelves and break them, eliminate them just as fast as creators wake and create shit. Now they all on some hate shit, just like a nigga, like ain't nobody done a thing, but we running rings around these bitches. The more tapes we make, the more they all go broke, so fuck them. If it ain't no love, then ain't none. If it is, then nigga say something, cause war and speed gon' stomp and keep on stomping. And drama made that solemn promise of shorty flying moan. Oh nigga, it's been one.
Look around me, you found me, it must have been bad to the bone. Get the mask in the chrome, this shot gotta die from a blast to the dome. Motherfucker Ouija board, I receive my blessings from G's and Lords. Now I'm in leaves and swords, so the outer war nigga must have found breathing board. Telling me to look into y'all eyes, all I see is a bitch. So crazy in New Orleans, scary big talk about you was loving my shit. Hit the bud and got sick, on the shit talking out I see mumbling R&B. You can keep the apology, you don't try to dishonor me. Get the host of the harmony just when you thought it was safe. The bone niggas about to get started and rape like a slow down and all of the tape. Y'all bit it and all y'all who bought it was fake. Now watch 4 B's on the stage, bleed on the braids. Down the first of the month, cause it works for the blunt. Why would you compete to be doomed? Now you gon' see easy soon. Finna boom on a reaper, cushion, cause the reaper's still rushing. When I reach and start busting, I'm a bone crusher. Quick county or nothing, ain't no bluffing. In the county of crooks, gangbangers, killers and slangers, what judges be quick to hang us, homies and strangers, no bluffing, we bustin'. Come on, kamikaze, watch our bodies come up.